it feels flimsy, thin to me, Stugotz, what Jessica is saying. She's not wrong, but it just feels flimsy to me in argument culture, in debate culture, that if I disagree with person X's opinion, all I'm going to do is say that person is irrelevant or say, who the hell is that person? I don't care. But it is in line with things getting, it seems to me, just a little bit dumber all over. And one of the places it has gotten just a little bit dumber all over is where it is that you, I'm asking everyone in the audience here when I say you, get your comedy and how you get your comedy. Because Shane Gillis went on Saturday Night Live this weekend, and he said to the audience there, you probably don't even know who I am, because there are a whole lot of comedians like Shane Gillis who occupy a different space from in the audience at Saturday Night Live. It's a growing space. It's a freer space than the mainstream. There are a whole bunch of podcasts in the top 100 by comedians who have giant economies around them, and it's not the mainstream. Shane Gillis goes on Saturday Night Live, and I told you, Stugotz, before the pandemic, I saw Louis C.K. before Louis C.K.'s troubles on Saturday Night Live, and this is a stand-up comic at the very top of his game. And I don't remember what the three topics were. I think he went Israel, Palestine, pedophilia, and then some other third-rail topic effortlessly as the monologue on Saturday Night Live. And I couldn't believe how well he did that subject matter because it seemed hugely pressurized. Shane Gillis got celebrated this weekend for saying gay, saying retard, and doing Down syndrome stuff. He also said cracker in like a 20-second span, and then said most of my stuff doesn't even work on television. He said, I can't do most of my material on television, but he was being celebrated as someone who was pushing boundaries. Yeah, I mean, not particularly well compared to what it is that I'm talking about, even though the monologue was fine and the most pressurized situation of his career, because that seemed to me, as I was watching it before, it seemed like a big nervous situation at the start. And it seemed, and he said so, that he's never been that nervous. It seemed like a ton of pressure to go from, you were let go by Saturday Night Live before your career started, when people started digging into your podcast past, and now people have a problem with Saturday Night Live because you've gone to the front of the line, and in the 5 years of cancel culture doesn't actually exist and can actually help your career. He got to host Saturday Night Live the way Eddie Murphy did when he was their star cast member by not being on Saturday Night Live. Did any of you see it? Because I thought it was a good monologue. Like, I thought he's funny. I thought he was funny, and it was a real difficult situation for him.
It is, and when you are basically not into somewhere, not let in somewhere because of something that you've done, but then they also kind of bend the knee and allow you to cut the line and host and let you do the things that you're great at. His Trump, I thought the Trump sneaker skit was really funny. Like, he does an excellent Trump. There's things that Shane does in pockets that are really good. And yeah, it's an impossible spot for him to be there and be like, all right, I'm me, you know the story, but I'm here and I'm going to try to make you laugh, even though it's kind of weird.
Do you guys agree with me, though, that they're not the same people? The Saturday Night Live audience is not necessarily the audience where Bert Kreischer and
Who is the Saturday Night Live audience, honestly? Like, is it because I
think
feel
it's just
like
people who want to go and have viewed it as something historically cool. Like, I don't know that there's that many people who are showing up specifically for a host.
But do people like watch it like live still? Because I feel like it just now lives as like social clips, doesn't it?
Yeah, like every other show.
Yeah. So who's this audience?
Oh my gosh, a Notre Dame game went late a couple years ago on NBC, and it went straight into SNL, and it was like a jump scare. I was like, ah! Where's the remote? Get it off! I don't want to watch this. Bedtime. 3 hours ago.
Realistically, it's I think it's a cool thing, right? When you are a person that is not able to do something and then you're now able to do something because of what you've done in the back end to grow your career, I see it as a really cool thing, regardless of what, clouds the situation. Like, I like Shane. I've gone to see Shane live. Like, he's right. The things that he does in person, he cannot do on TV. But that's who he is. And like, it's either you like Shane Gillis or you don't. And it's okay if you don't. It's just that's what it is.
Most stand-up comedians are going to sanitize what it is that they do for a general nationalized audience on SNL. What's weirder and seemingly more concerning, because I watched the monologue too, and I thought it was funny. I didn't think anything was really too over the line. He used the words that you mentioned, and now the right wing on Twitter in particular is celebrating the fact that he used those words as if he used them maliciously.
But this is why I'm
He
saying
just used them.
This
Just
is why
used
I'm
them.
saying all of these conversations and everything around this is getting just slightly dumber by degrees. Like when I'm telling you that what Louis C.K. did was on subject matter that's hard, and that Shane wasn't doing that. He wasn't actually pushing any of the boundaries that he pushes as someone who's in a bit of disguise, Stugotz, because he's getting the Bud Light promos, because Bud Light has had its business actually crater. Bud Light has been damaged and is now trying to correct it by giving money to UFC, by giving money to Shane Gillis, who identifies as everyman but is in costume. Like, I think that if I had to check Shane Gillis's actual politics, I think they would be closer to mine than the average person on the conservative side, but he's sort of playing on the line.
He is, and I think that's where the brilliance of Shane is. Like, I'm going to make fun of this. You don't really know where I stand. I told you I'm pre-Republican because I think about World War II. And, like, he has those bits that kind of stray the line of where he really is. But at the end of the day, like, again, it's two camps, and I don't want to hark on it, but it's like either you get it and you like what he does or you don't, right? Like, there's people here that I have conversations with, Matthew Kugler, who doesn't like Shane. He's like, I think he takes a joke too far. And I'm like, hey, I get that. But I like that part about it, right? Like, that to me makes me laugh, so.
I feel like we're overthinking this. They didn't want him to host the show before because he said bad
We
things.
overthink everything.
And now he's just hosting the show because he's popular and they want the
He was
bump
going to
of
be
his
on the
fans.
show. He's going to be one of the characters and one of the people. So
Yeah, he was going to
obviously-
be on the show before.
Right.
I know. And then he got
Right.
fired because of the things that
Yeah,
he
'cause
said.
he said offensive
and
shit.
now he's popular and they said, you know what, never mind. We don't really care about them. We don't have morals after
It didn't-
all.
it didn't
and then
hurt
they
his-
brought him in for
Well,
They had,
popularity.
they
That's
had
like when they
Nikki
brought-
Haley on 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they brought Morgan Wallen back like 3 weeks after he said the N-word. It's
They
not
had
like
Trump
this is a
on.
standard.
It didn't hurt his career at all to be let go. It probably sucked at the time. I'm
Probably
sure
helped
it
his
did.
career.
But no, it did. It did end up helping his career. And now Saturday Night Live needs those ratings bumps. They need to take more chances than that because they are not the cultural influencer they were, because so many people react the way that Jessica does, because any Saturday Night Live conversation you hear these days is about how it's not what it used to be.
But to Jess's point, it made it more controversial on Twitter, right? And so now the engagement with the SNL clips is there because you have all of these people on the right propping up what this monologue was and all of these things. And then you have all of the people potentially on the left, I haven't seen very much of it, talking about this SNL because, oh man, he was fired and he said this. And they're trying to sort of trek in that divisiveness where Shane is almost in some ways the exact opposite of that, and that he's trying to just sort of toe the line between you don't really know what I think. Whether or not he's funny, I haven't watched all that much of Shane Gillis's stand-up.
No,
but
he's funny.
The monologue was fine, and it wasn't all of the things that now people are trying to make it.
You can argue that he's bigger now, right? Like, since his fiasco back at that point, he's more popular now than anybody on the SNL cast across the board.
That's correct.
Put some respect on Kenan Thompson's name.
I mean, Keenan's been doing it for a great time. Compiler, he's been there forever, not the point. But yeah, he has been a compiler one.
Really?
I mean, that's just my opinion.
Aren't
is
the
that?
hosts always more famous than the
Yeah.
cast members?
Yes,
Yeah, that's
but
the point.
This one is different, though. Like, he was supposed to be a cast member. Now he's so big that he is now a host, not a cast member. He's bigger than every cast member that's there.
But that's no different than some of the like writers who go, like John Mulaney was a writer for the show that nobody knew, and then he went on to have a stand-up career, and he comes back and he's hosted it like 5 times, I think. And so it's because they get to go be so much more famous through stand-up comedy.
When I talk about individual brands, though, Stugotz, throughout media being something that's helping media crumble, I'm talking about here. I'm talking about Saturday Night Live needs Shane Gillis for a night more than Shane Gillis needs Saturday Night Live for a night. I mentioned this about Shannon Sharp a while ago, Stugotz. Very quietly, Skip Bayless is going to be out of a job soon because his ratings have tanked because individual brands have helped take the marketplace to a totally different place.